Welcome to Crushing with Abby O. I'm your host and body optimization coach, Abby O'Sullivan. I am passionate about helping you navigate your health and self-love journey, and I'll be sharing all of the secrets on utilizing nutrition, movement, stress management, mindset, and more in order to help you fit self-care into any moment of your day. We are going to bust through the health and fitness industry bullshit. We're going to have a laugh, and we might even cry sometimes, but then we're going to crush our day. Thank you for tuning in. I'm so excited to have you here. Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of Crushing with Abby O. Today I have a special guest joining me, a fellow coach, Taylor Rodriguez, fondly also known as Coach Taz. He is so passionate about coaching and especially helping fellow busy parents navigate their own health and fitness journeys. And in this episode, he's going to share his story about losing two big job losses that led to depression, and then getting into the gym where he succeeded in his own 70-pound weight loss that spurred him into coaching and found that changing lives was a great passion for him. Taz offers honest advice on taking responsibility for your own health and your growth as a parent. He shares 3 main areas for busy moms to focus on when you want to be in better health, and how he suggests mapping out your day so you can get all the things done. He's also going to throw a wrench into the rules around working out and convenience foods and healthy being unobtainable. So I know you're going to get some great nuggets out of this. All my busy folks who are parents, who are business owners, who are working and taking care of the family and a million other things. Taylor Rodriguez, aka Coach Taz, is the owner and head coach of Taz Fitness and Nutrition. He is a personal trainer and a nutrition coach located in Deltona, Florida, that specializes in helping busy and exhausted parents lose weight without having to crash diet or spend hours in the gym. Taylor is a former pro wrestler turned fitness enthusiast after the economic downturn of 2008-2010. After losing almost 70 pounds, his new passion has become to leave behind a legacy that future generations would be proud of. Everyone, please welcome Taylor Rodriguez to the podcast. Welcome, Coach Taz, to the Crushing with Abby O podcast. First of all, how did you get the nickname Taz?
So I started my fitness career as a group fitness instructor in 2012. And I was running at this time, fitness was the only thing I was doing besides pro wrestling. So for those that don't know, I'm a semi-retired pro wrestler.
Oh, cool.
So during these boot camps that I would coach 2, 3, 4 a day with only like a 15-minute break in between. So one of my clients that came to the boot camps actually gave me the name because, typically you hear people that are very high energy that never seem to take a break and they live the hustle hard mentality. She actually came and she was like, "Oh, you're like the Energizer Bunny." And that's the typical thing, the Energizer Bunny, but she wanted something more masculine. So she kept coming in this class and she was like, "Taylor, I got it. You're the Tasmanian devil." And she was like, "Your new name is Coach Taz." And every class she would go by, she would just say, "Coach Taz, Coach Taz, Coach Taz." And then when I
love it.
My wife now, who at that time we were simply dating, she was at the boot camps, and my girlfriend, now wife, would go, "That's your business name right there." Because right there, I was just like Taylor Rodriguez. She was like, "Why don't you call yourself Taz Fitness?" I was like, boom, there you go. 10 years later, here we are.
I love it. That's fantastic. I usually get called abs, but I'm like, but they're protected. So, I mean, like,
I was going to say, that's not a bad nickname.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, my mom would be like Crabby Abby, and the stupid boys in school would be like Scabby Abby. You know what?
That's terrible.
Not cool at all. Things that stick with you in your life. I'm just kidding.
So that's what's pushed you to get into this world. So now you can have abs and be like, "No, I'm abs, but I got abs."
Visible abs, right? Like sometimes I see a faint outline of something happening.
Don't we all? We only see the outline.
Yeah, like I'm not really too worried about it, right? I like my body fat. It keeps me protected from things. So tell us more about yourself and your story, because I've heard a little bit of your story before at some of the live events that we've both been at. And then what makes you so passionate about coaching?
Right. So, like I said, I got started in 2012, where my journey is a little bit different because I actually never intended to be a fitness instructor. I never intended to be a nutrition coach or a nutritionist of any kind. All I wanted to do was, my passion was actually to work for Disney on movie posters, because if fun nerdy fact about me, I'm a movie critic fanatic. I love studying film and everything like that. So, and I love the world of art. So I actually went to school for graphic design, and I went into the workforce in 2008, right after graduating from high school. And I got my first real world big boy job in the graphic design field, working for a newspaper company. And I was on track to go work for Disney. I was sending them templates and different projects I was working on. So hopefully I would be picked up. And then right in that time was when we went through the recession in the United States, where
I remember.
So yeah, at that time, that was a 2.5 year recession, or where our economy was really hurting really badly. So you add that, plus this was the time period where the introduction of Canva, Fiverr, WordPress, and all these third-party applications that were making it possible for individuals to save money from hiring graphic designers and web designers to build their websites. They could do it themselves. So you add in the recession plus these third-party applications, so people didn't have to hire designers to do their artwork for them or their marketing for them. And now you have a recipe for a lost career. So long story short, I got laid off in 2010, and I was on a 2-year hiatus. I was literally 2 years unemployed from 2010 to 2012, just trying to figure out how I was going to pay my rent. So I was sending in applications everywhere, trying to get picked up by Disney or any other newspaper publication, anything that I could get a job for. Well, during this time, I mentioned earlier, I was a part-time pro wrestler. So I would travel up and down the East Coast, sometimes travel to Puerto Rico, film TV shows over there, wrestling. So that was how I was surviving. That's how I was paying for food for myself. So I actually had to go in for my yearly sports physical with my doctor. And he ended up telling me after the physical, in sometime around 2010, he was like, Taylor, you're not in good condition. You're on the brink of losing your wrestling career because I cannot physically clear you. Your BMI is high. You have an excessive amount of fat tissue on your bones. You're not moving fast anymore. So here I am going through an uber depression because now I've lost my art career. And now you're telling me I'm about to lose my last passion of pro wrestling and being a pro athlete. So you can guess I went through a pretty big depression during that 2-year gap. So I was like, no, I am not losing my wrestling career. You can take everything away from me, but you're not taking away my athletics. So I ended up calling up a friend that lived in the same city as me, who was a personal trainer, and he was actually a wrestler too. And I was like, hey, can you show me what to do in the gym? He was like, yeah, no problem. No charge. Just come to the gym with me. He showed me the exercises, deadlift, bench press, squat, just like the fundamental movement patterns. And long story short, 5 months, I ended up losing close to 70 pounds. So then to answer your question, how I got into the fitness career, when I got into shape, there was 3 people, my mother, my best friend, and my best friend's best friend, who all contacted me because they saw my weight loss, and they're like, show me what to do too. So I don't recommend this to other personal trainers because we know the damaging effects of it, but I literally copy and pasted my trainer's template, nutrition template, everything, every like red flag.
You're like, here you go.
I was like, here you go. This is what you do. Well, I got severely lucky because they ended up all losing weight.
Good
so
deal.
now I have these 3 testimonials that are telling everybody in my local community, hey, Taylor, he's helping us lose weight, just do this thing. And before I knew it, I was getting phone calls like crazy. And then the light bulb went off in my head and I was like, oh, this is how I can pay my rent this month.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I cared about. I just cared about paying my rent. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to send this template out, charge people like 25, 50 bucks and just pay my rent. And I ended up freaking paying my rent that month. So I don't give a damn. But that's like how I got started.
I love it.
It's very comical and it's very different because you talk to these other trainers, they're like, oh, I was born for this. I'm super passionate about it. And I'm like, no, I was just an art nerd that I was trying to pay.
I got these 5 certifications.
So 2012
certifications are great, by the way, like not knocking.
No, yeah, I'm like, oh, so 2012 comes and I'm like, okay, maybe I should get certified because at this point I started getting a number of testimonials and I started gathering people for local boot camps in my park.
Cool.
So I was like, okay, I need to go through and get the right credentials. So eventually I did, but that's where we are today.
Fantastic. And what makes you so passionate about like coaching? I know you tend to help is you yourself are a parent and you tend to have a lot of parents that you coach. And what makes you so passionate about like helping them?
Well, it does change over time. The passion comes and goes because like we all know, and I just spoke about it this morning with my own group, was motivation. We have to understand is emotional feeling. So it comes and goes wherever you're going to get that spark in your passion from. It's going to change as we age and as different scenarios get brought to us in life. So when I started, like I said, my passion, my drive just came from, I didn't want to get evicted. So that was my drive. Now, once I built up that financial security and I was able to pay off my rent for several months, and I knew that fitness was going to be probably my new career moving forward, because I started to get passionate about, these life-changing results you're causing people. Like my biggest eye-opener was for my own mother who struggled with a lot of eating disorders and my best friend who were 2 of my original testimonies. He suffered from massive obesity. He was a type 2, what you would call on the obesity scale. And then my own mother who suffered from eating disorders. When both of them called me and they were like, thank you so much. I'm so much happier. I'm more energized. Like I'm more confident with my appearance. I'm going on dates. I'm doing all these things. That was me on the other end of the phone going, whoa, like you just impacted someone's life on a completely different level than what just creating a movie poster would do. Like I'm not negating any artist because you guys got some skills and it's hard freaking work. But when you get someone that calls you and says, hey, I'm actually going on a date and I'm confident with the way that I look, dude, that's freaking cool. Like I don't know too many things that's cooler than that. So that was like, okay, I might have a talent here and I might need to like stick with this for a little bit. So, and then now you fast forward several years, I'm 10 years into the game, coached hundreds of individuals. And now my passion is to be a role model for my wife, for my children, because when I grew up in a very humble neighborhood. It was not that great. And barely I tell a story all the time where there was a moment in my childhood where I went to my refrigerator and there was literally only bread and water in there. Like we were dirt freaking poor. So my passion is to never go back to that and never allow my daughter to see the things that I saw as a child. So I am always leading from the front, and I'm a big advocate of parents leading from the front. We sacrifice first. We're on the front line. We do the things that we don't want to do so our children have a better future. So that's where my passion comes from now.
Yeah. And setting the example on kind of in line with that. And on the flip side of taking care of yourself and staying active and trying to eat in a way that serves your long-term health. Like parents are the example.
Yeah.
And you can help people also, like you can help others do that for their families as well.
Right. And here's the thing too, and this is one of my biggest triggers, and this is where you'll see, like for those that don't know, like I come from a military family. Like every man 4 generations deep was in the military. And I was the first like black sheep that decided to go a completely different direction. I had no interest. All the respect in the world for our military. I love them. Some of my greatest friends on planet Earth from the military. I love y'all. But that was just not the route for me. I had zero interest in it. So I see that lifestyle growing up with my dad, that hardworking mentality, you'll start to see bits of it. And my wife sees it in me, where I get very blunt and honest with people unapologetically. And this is where I'm not going to bend a knee for anybody in saying, we as parents are so hypocritical sometimes. And stay with me, because this is the part where a lot of people will turn this off because they feel personally attacked. But here's the deal. How many times do we hear parents specifically tell their children, hey, eat your vegetables. Hey, go outside and go play. Hey, get off the TV, get off the video games. But yet, you turn the camera on to ourselves. What are we doing? Are we eating vegetables? From the conversations that I have, I don't know the
right.
you have. Nah. Adults do not eat vegetables. They're not going outside. They're glued to the Netflix and the TikToks. Like, adults are just as guilty as the kids are. And all the time, parents are sitting here pointing the freaking finger. And I'll get on these calls with people and I'm like, you better stop pointing that freaking finger and point it at yourself. And that it's a trigger for a lot of people because they don't like to be called out. But I'm like, you invested your money into me to tell you the things that obviously you need to hear.
Yeah.
So you can grow and become better.
Exactly. So. That exactly, period. And end of podcast, y'all. Like, that's
end of podcast. That's it. Don't
that was the message that we came to deliver today. But it's so true. And it does hurt just a little bit. It hurts your feelings a little bit. But that is a moment that you can take to then, like you said, turn the mirror back on yourself and the camera back on yourself. And just like, okay, well, that's a chance for me to be better. That's a chance for me to step up. And I am paying someone to hold me accountable. That's exactly what I asked for. So can't really get mad at it. You can get mad, but you might as well just like suck it up and do something about it too. I mean, come on.
And realize it's just coming out of a place for love.
Yeah, totally.
We all want everyone to grow, succeed, become better.
Absolutely. Like, always with love.
And I tell my best friends all the time, I'm like, if you guys see me doing something that is not in alignment with my core values, or is just a misrepresentation of being a good husband, a loyal husband, a great father, role model, then please do not hesitate. Pick up that phone, call me and say, Taylor, what are you doing, dude? Yeah. Because it's not only going to help me selfishly, because we all want that self-improvement for ourselves, but it's going to help add to the quality of my marriage, my parenting, how I bring myself to my career. Like, if we grow as human beings, as parents, as spouses, it has a trickle-down effect on everything else around our lives. So never, ever be afraid to accept that constructive criticism.
I agree. That's a really great point. I don't know if I've ever actually told my friends to be like, listen, you better check me if I'm being a dick, like to myself, to anyone else. And I think that we get a little bit hesitant to try to have those conversations with people, but obviously there's a way to do it without, really hurt. Like, it's not out of hurting someone or telling them that they're doing something wrong. It's just like, hey, like, we know you, you know you. This isn't really something that would be the best for you. I love that. Maybe I'll have that conversation with my friends soon. Anyway,
I would highly encourage it. And you have to remember, like, you have to be gracious with people too, because we have to remember the world that we're living in now. And it's vastly different than where we were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Like 3 years ago.
3 years ago. And a lot of that has to do with the technological advancements. A lot of that has to do with the garbage that we see on the media and the news, and how journalism has changed. But like, we have to understand, we have to act when we talk to people. We have to act and talk out of a place of grace and love, sternness, but grace and love nonetheless, because our society is such over us. And it's like acceptance for all, love for all, participation trophies for everybody. And nobody can do no wrong because, God forbid we say something that doesn't align with our core values.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's okay for people to be different.
Mm-hmm.
But our world has slowly turned upside down and is like, no, we can't hurt anybody's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
We might get sued. We might get canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, let's look at the long-term ramifications of this. Because if we never bring that boldness or that sternness out of love to somebody to say, hey, I think this is where you're messing up, then how in the world do we expect our world to grow? How do we expect our households to grow and become better?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we expect our relationships, our intimate and personal relationships to get better? Like, somebody at some point in life has to call us out and be like, I think you're wrong. You can be wrong about something? Oh, God forbid.
Well, and genuine curiosity, like I've been noticing this and like there's something going on. Like, do you want to talk about it? Do you need some help with something? And obviously you kind of do that more for like your closer circle than you would for necessarily like just random people, but that can also be extended to random people and just out of genuine curiosity and wanting better for everyone, really. And I would add that a lot of people didn't necessarily grow up with the ability or the permission to speak out and speak up. So that's also something that we have to work to overcome if we did not grow up that way. And I would say women especially, like sit down, be quiet, don't speak out, don't speak up, don't defend yourself, don't offend anyone. God forbid you don't smile at that strange man passing you on the street. Like, be friendly. I can digress. I can go on about that. Because listen, I go to the gym, I go to the Y, and I like inevitably some random man has something to say to me. And I'm like, damn it. I just need to learn how to be more stern about my personal boundaries. Cause like, yeah, it's cool, like to be friendly, but I don't need to be bothered quite that much. And it happens on a regular basis. So anyway, it's always a very funny story, honestly. But one of my clients was like, Abby, you are just too friendly. You need to like tap your earbuds. And like, she was like, I make this head motion. Like she shakes her head and she taps her earbuds like, no, I can't hear you. Like, and keeps going. And I'm like, I really need to get better at that. Yeah, okay. Just too nice. Anyway. So I hear all the time from women, busy moms, busy business owners, regardless of their like career situation, that they're just busy and they feel like they don't have time, can't find the time to work in meal planning, prepping, like eating healthy and exercise. But let's tackle like the main thing is what's kind of your first step or first bit of advice when somebody's like, I don't have time.
But yet they want to achieve their health goals, right?
Yeah, of course we do.
So that is a really
all of
good
it.
question. Yeah. So what I call like the hierarchy of wellness, where you see what like the Food and Drug Administration gives out, where it's like this pretty little pyramid of have milk and cheese and protein and plants and fruits and all that. And I'm like, listen, nobody's going to follow that. Here, let's break this down into 3 simple steps. If you want to be healthy, there's 3 main things that you got to do. Number 1, get enough sleep, high quality sleep. Number 2, focus on nutrition, quantity and quality. And we can break those down a little bit. And then number 3 is exercise. The biggest problem that we see in our industry nowadays, especially with parents, but this can be for absolutely everybody, is they actually want to flip that upside down. And when January 1st comes, for example, every New Year's resolution, or what's the first thing that they do when they have a weight loss goal? They get a gym membership. They put that at the peak of their pyramid when really it should be sleep. And then they'll focus on getting a diet template or one of these copy and paste things that I do not recommend, even though I did it. I was new.
We learn from our mistakes. Yeah. It's okay.
And then they purchased
it's really a mistake apparently, but
yeah, they ended up purchasing this $10 nutrition template off of some website that is not tailored to them specifically. Then the third one is they focus on other things that are non-important or non-crucial, like stress management, sleep, water, all that stuff. So for anybody that's really struggling with time, and as a parent and an owner of 2 businesses, I 100% get it. So number one, you have to get control of your calendar, or your calendar is going to control you. That is a phrase that I've lived by. And I am stickler on having a journal, having a calendar, whether it's physical or online. And my mother had this saying where we were super spiritual in our house growing up. And she would have her physical Bible that she would read every morning. And then right next to it was her physical calendar. And she would say, this calendar, Taylor, is my second Bible, because it kept her in line. It kept her in order. Now, remember, this was a military family. Everything was structured. You knew what you were doing at 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Everything, every role had a job. Every time had a job. So that is sort of like what I recommend to people that's worked for me. That's, at the end of the day, that's all we can do, is recommend things that work for us. So I tell everybody, get with the calendar, learn time blocking. Like, you can Google that and either get a physical calendar or just do the Google Calendar online, and then start structuring your days, plugging in there what needs to get done, what has to get done, where your goals are, when you're going to eat, when you're going to sleep, when's going to be time for the spouse, when's going to be your hobby time. Like, literally plug everything in there, because the biggest problem with parents is, and what is causing the maximum amount of stress for parents, is they just get up, they might hit snooze a couple times because the kids sleep in, and then they wake up and it's freaking guns a blazing. They realize they have to get their 1, 2, 3 kids ready for school. They got to drop them off. Oh crap, they're running late for work. Oh wait, they didn't prep their coffee. They got to go sit in 15 minutes in a Starbucks drive-through. And oh crap, now I have to go to lunch. I have to
even get me started on Starbucks and that damn line. Oh,
and your days, by doing this and just going through the motions in this panic mode, because you don't have control of your time, it creates this heightened sense of anxiety, stress, and we can talk in depth about how that releases stress hormones and how that damages your physiological profile. Like, that has long-term ramifications for it if you don't get in control of your calendar. So step 1, get a freaking journal. And step 2, you can always manipulate your diet or your workout around your daily life. Like,
absolutely.
If any trainer tells you you have to do a structured 60, 90, 120 minute workout in the gym every single day to lose weight, they're full of it. That's a red flag. Run the other direction.
Or maybe we just got our certification.
Like me, I just got my certification.
Right. Well, no, I mean, just on that point, and just personally, like, yes, calendars, very important, setting non-negotiables, like making sure that you have some boundaries, because like, otherwise you have all day to do something and all day to put it off. I mean, it depends on like what kind of job, what kind of lifestyle you have, but that's kind of what happens to me. And also adjusting your workouts, because I think it's a big like misconception that you have to spend hours in the gym a day or per week to get the results that you want. And it's just not true. And it doesn't fit everyone's lifestyle. Like, some people like literally like, okay, well, it takes 15 to 30 minutes to drive to the gym. And then you're there for like an hour. Like, oh my God, like, forbid anyone talk to you, and like you get stuck in a conversation, because then you're there for 2 hours. And then you have to figure out dinner and all of that stuff. So I just, even personally, was going through this myself, and I was like, all right, my priority right now is just to like, it's maintain and then work into a slow build. It's winter time. Like, I've had already done a deficit like most of the summer over. I'm tired of like tracking so closely and thinking about it so much. So I'm switching gears, and I'm like, all right, what will fit my schedule right now, where I can still get a lot done. I can still get some movement in, really just enjoy some snail paced walks once in a while in the middle of the day. And so I have a program where I'm like 2 full body days in the gym a week for like the first phase at least. And then we'll see if I throw in a third day. Otherwise, I'm cool with hitting it hard, like 2 days a week. And then I do little mini sessions at home, and I'm still trying to get my walks in. And I'm like, this is going to be great, because then I don't have to worry about like making it to the gym like 4 days a week, even though I love that sometimes. It's just not, it's not right for me right now. And I think we really have to like make it known, like, hey, it absolutely can fit your lifestyle. It doesn't have to be like this one freaking way. It doesn't have to be the template. And even that template, like I can adjust that to my goals and my needs, and that's what a good coach can do for you too. So
Right.
anyway.
And just staying in the lane of fitness, I always share this little scientific study that I read a couple years ago when I was developing my program, because I love working with parents. So
Mm-hmm.
I developed my nutrition protocols, my training protocols, my stress management protocols all around parents. So when I
Awesome.
was developing this, I looked in depth about the science on how the body changes, how you gain muscle mass, how you eliminate fat tissue. And I looked extensively with what you can do time wise in the gym and still get or maximize your results. And there was a study done, and it's free to the public. You just have to go to PubMed's website. Just go to Google, type in PubMed. And there was one study done. Now, granted, there always has to be more research done, but for the sake of this podcast, there was one study that was done that completely changed how I program workouts nowadays. They took 2 test groups with about a dozen individuals each. Both of them same goals, weight loss. Both of them same diets, same structured like BMI. They were very similar human beings. So that it limits a lot of the room for manipulation with the scientific study. But basically, these 2 test groups, they took one test group that would do consistently 60 to 90-minute workouts. I think it was like 3 or 4 days a week. And then the second test group actually was doing blocks, as they call it, where they would do a 10-minute workout here, 15 here, 20 here, and they would just do them throughout the day as opposed to one structured workout, back to back to back. And what they noticed after this study was done, both test groups saw the similar amount of weight loss. Diet was the same, everything was the same, minus the workout structure. So I actually took this and I tested it with my own clients. And I would be like, I would take a 60-minute workout that I would typically program for someone, and I chopped it up into 3 and 4s. And I'll be like, this is your heavy strength, this is your conditioning, this is your core, this is your low impact stuff, whatever. And I tested it with a handful of individuals. All of them saw weight loss. And literally just doing these 10-minute pockets throughout the day.
Yeah.
And you might not have 60 minutes to go to the gym, but I guarantee you got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, and that's been a game changer.
Totally. And if you can do it at home and you have like some bands or just some dumbbells or like whatever, I mean, it's not like you have to have all this like massive amounts of equipment or know a ton. It can be like pretty simple depending on the person and what they like and their skill level and stuff. But plus, I think like one of the cool benefits of that is, and I personally, I love going to the gym to just get things done. Like I do enjoy that, but I don't want to spend half my week there right now. Is the fact that you're getting up and you're moving like several times a day, and you're getting like that kind of boost of energy like several times a day. And then I would imagine you still get sleep pretty well. You've gotten up and you've moved and you feel good.
Yeah. And the whole thing about sleep, where if you would say time is the biggest problem with parents, I would say the second that has nothing to do with time related, the biggest. And, we have to understand parents have newborns, toddlers. Me and my wife are getting woken up a few times a night because our 3-year-old is she's of the age now where she's scared of the dark, dealing with nightmares, things like that. So it's probably, if you talk to a parent with especially a newborn, with older kids, you can get away with it, but toddler, newborn stages, they're probably not getting very good sleep.
Yeah.
And remember, sleep, in my opinion, is the top of the wellness pyramid. It's not fitness, it's not nutrition. Number one is sleep. So the question becomes, how can we maximize sleep quality with whatever time that we do get? That's the trick. So when I was going through the stage of newborn, and at this time, this was before I went into nutrition coaching full time. So I was a marketing assistant doing 40, 50 hours a week. I was doing my graphic design business on the side and doing Taz Fitness. So I had a lot of junk going on. And I was getting maybe 4 hours of sleep at night.
Oof.
So what I would do is on my lunch break, go to my car, crank up the AC, take a 30-minute power nap. Like literally, I tell my clients or my parents that I work with, get it in wherever you can. Like I went and saw 2 of my best friends. Shout out to Kevin and Tadisha. They just had their very first child. And we went over to their house to go see their beautiful baby girl. And both of them were wide awake, working out, doing the deal. And I'm like, your daughter is asleep. You're not going to get much sleep. While me and my wife are here in your house watching your daughter, you guys need to be in that bedroom freaking napping because you ain't sleeping tonight.
Yeah.
So like we get tempted to make up for our personal hobbies, make up work or whatever with when the baby's asleep. And we have to maximize that time. And even if it's for 15, 20, 30 minutes, you guys got to take naps, because if you guys are serious about achieving weight loss goals, sleep has to be your priority. So the other big things that I suggest to parents when you do get sleep at night is to maximize your sleep quality. Look into essential oils like lavender, get an oil diffuser, and that can calm you down. Do 5 minutes of stretching before bed. Get what my wife and I did. We got a white noise machine, and it helps calm us down and it keeps us in the zone for our deep sleep. Little things like that, blackout curtains.
Yeah.
Making sure you get a great mattress, like all those little things, because even if you do get 4 hours of sleep, even though I don't recommend it, you do what you got to do, you maximize those 4 hours. It's going to make you feel like you got 5 or 6 as opposed to 3 or 4 by having crappy sleep. Totally. So that's the other thing I suggest to everybody.
I love, I use Insight Timer for meditations, but mostly at night to fall asleep. I have a particular guy, actually I have 2 now. There's a particular guy that I will just listen to, and it's super long. So it's not something that once it doesn't end and it's like an hour and a half or so. So I'm asleep by then. I never notice when it goes off, and I have it just loud enough that I hear his voice. And I usually last about 10 minutes. I don't know if I've ever heard more, unless I just have a really hard time falling asleep that night. I don't know if I've ever heard more than 20 minutes. I don't necessarily follow what he's doing. It's just something about the music in his voice. And I'm just like, okay, bye. And then I've been listening to a different one lately that's kind of the same way. And that's what's interesting to me, because you wouldn't think necessarily somebody talking, but it depends on the tone and whatever. I also like the like theta sound, like waves, that sometimes those can be really cool. And you can find a lot of the stuff on Spotify too. I actually looked up white noise on Spotify, and I found a frequency or whatever, a static that I liked. And I just put it as a track like 5 times in a playlist and just repeat it. And sometimes that's my go-to for a while. Like I just need a little bit of distractions. Like your mind needs a little bit of distraction and then calm down. But yes, I agree. Stretching and kind of tuning into the body and breathing and invoking that like relaxing vibe, doesn't have to be long, can really help. And I agree. Sleep is super important, because when we're tired, we make a lot of decisions based on that. Drive-throughs, alcohol, stress, irritability, like it just lots of caffeine and less water. And it just is like a cycle that compounds, and a lot of other things start to cascade from that. Like stress levels go up, and stress is not great. Elevated stress for a long time is not great. Stress is great on its own, but the cortisol hormone, but
and remember your hunger hormones as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I've always noticed where, like, if I do get those really bad night sleeps where our daughter's waking us up and it's probably like 4 hours or so, I'll notice the next day I'm hungry all the time. And I'm like, there's no way I am hungry that magically my body and my metabolism kicked in within this 24-hour period.
We wish.
Like, there's no way. sorry, honey, but your metabolism doesn't work that fast.
Well, right. And like,
So,
what do you usually want to eat when you're that tired? When you're having those kinds of like, when you're hunger cravings?
well, typically, like, are we speaking in the middle of the night when I'm trying to go to sleep, or in the middle of the day?
Just in the day, like when you're having a tired day, like typically, do you have particular cravings? Cause I know when I'm tired, my cravings go to like carbs, and not necessarily like, ooh, I want sweet potatoes carbs. I want
Yeah.
like anything else carbs. And that, to me, just becoming aware of that is a big deal. Like, you didn't get a lot of sleep. That's why you're craving this. But what would be better for you nutrient wise is this. Like, I'm not saying never
Right.
have a cookie, but we tend to just, what's easy? I'm so tired, like blah. But it's
Yeah.
like, listen, what's actually going to serve me and my goals is, and what's going to make me feel better is having like something way more balanced and full of nutrients.
Yeah, for the most part, like my biggest craving, if there's anything I'm an addict of, it's caffeine. So if
Mm.
it's a really bad night and I have to, like I said, I run two businesses, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm on the go 24/7, like I will skip my
Taz,
morning glass of
Taz needs
water.
his juice.
Taz needs his energy juice. Like nobody talk to me, nobody
Right.
look at me in the eye,
Definitely not.
like stay away until I have like 1 to 2 cups of coffee, like just as your fair warning.
I just
Like
really want to know right now who is listening to this and like totally in
you're like,
agreement. Oh my
yeah,
God, like preach.
yeah,
Fucking
yeah.
talk to me
So
before that first cup.
yeah. So well, that's me every day. Like if I wake up,
Same.
regardless if it's 4 hours or 18 hours, do not talk to me
Give
until I
me a
have
moment.
that first coffee in me. Like I have too much crap to deal with. Like even though like my wife might kick my ass for saying this, but it's like we get into arguments sometimes because first thing in the morning she's asking me 10 million questions and I'm like, boo-boo, I'm thinking about my art projects, I'm thinking about these clients I have to call, I'm thinking about the financial aspect of our business. Like I got too much junk going in here. Like give me my coffee, give me 15 minutes, I'll check back in with you with a little bit.
Yeah. I know,
But,
that was like something funny that I talked with Nick Reel about, our sleep expert. And I've had him on the podcast as well. And I was talking to him about my morning and night routines and how I was thinking about switching them up. Well, at least my morning routine, because what I was doing is I wake up and I think about business too. But when I immediately get on social media, like that is not fulfilling to my soul. So I decided that I needed to change like what I was doing, right? Like first thing in the morning for like the first hour and a half or so. And then he told me to put that in his group as like homework. And I realized as I'm writing this out, I'm like, I don't have like necessarily any obligations or anyone to speak to in the morning or before bed. Like, why do I not take more advantage of this time and not get on social media and crowd my head with like whatever bullshit, was
yep.
going on the Facebook feed and all of that? Like, why am I not taking advantage of the fact that I don't have to talk to anyone for an hour if I don't want to? Like, so
Yep.
it's like, yes, once again, we were talking about before I hit record about being alone in my life,
Yep.
like being single and childless does have sometimes its perks, but I have to really, like, it's really easy for me to ignore that too and do things that aren't necessarily like serving me health wise as well. So I still have to be super aware, even if there's no one else to think about. I still have to treat myself well. It's an obligation that I have to myself. But speaking about meals, because I know like all the women that I talk to, like it's really something about food and like what meals do I cook? Do you have any particular kind of go-to quick meals that you like to recommend to people or that you like yourself for you and your family?
Yeah, absolutely. So fully like one of my core values within my own business is to lead with transparency. I will never tell my clients to do anything that I wouldn't do. And to be brutally honest on this podcast right now, I might reveal something that is entirely freaking crazy because I'm a health person, I'm a trainer, whatever. But me and my wife have not meal prepped since our daughter was born 3.5 years ago. Like, you do not need to meal prep to live a healthy lifestyle, to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it beneficial? Hell yeah.
Well, and I think there's different definitions of meal prep. And when people think of
Yeah.
meal prep, they think of that like Sunday afternoon, all like hours of everything for the
Complex
week.
recipes.
Well, yeah, that too. And I'm like, well, my meal prep could just be the fact that I made dinner and then at the same time pulled some out for my lunch the next day.
Well, typically, so the most of the time when you speak to parents, we're running around, soccer moms, taking kids to school, going to work, taking a break, picking the kids up from school, going back to work, then going home, dealing with the spouse, trying to fit in a workout. So all in all, everybody's incredibly freaking busy. Reality is you're not going to be able to spend that traditional Sunday for 6 hours meal prepping 7 perfect meals. It's just unrealistic.
2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
2 hours
And
max.
I used to do it. And I don't miss it.
Yeah.
But,
it's time consuming.
Yeah. So we have to talk to parents with the understanding that you need healthy meals fast. Now, I will say this once again as another trigger warning for a lot of parents, because one of the biggest complaints I hear is people go to McDonald's, they go to Chick-fil-A, they go to Starbucks, they go to all these places for the key word is convenience. Now, buckle yourself up because I'm going to say something, and I'm going to say there is no viable excuse that you have to eat like shit. Point, period, the end. With the society that we have nowadays, with the food options that we have nowadays, with vegan options becoming available, with the boom of plant-based foods.
Also, hello, grocery delivery.
Yeah, grocery delivery.
Meal delivery.
You even have typically unhealthy fast food options, and I'm using quotations if you're listening to this on the podcast, where you can go to places like Chick-fil-A that, even though they're deemed healthier fast food, you can go and get a chicken salad. Like you can go get their grilled chicken nuggets. Like all these options now, gas stations have them where they have healthy snacks.
Totally.
I
love looking around a gas station to see what I mean, because that's not how I grew. I mean, I love road trip snacks, but it's different for me now. And I'm like, oh, cool. Little thing of grapes. Cool. Like hard boiled eggs, neat yogurt, like great. Yeah. This is awesome. Fancy vegan protein drinks. I mean, cool. And it's not like I'm going to big city, giant convenience stores. I live like I've traveled rural areas and you can still find some of this stuff. So,
right. Like when I'm in my car traveling, if I stop by the local gas station, I'm going to find healthy options. I can go pick up the bag of chips.
Or some beef jerky. If not, everyone has beef jerky.
Think of everything that you see inside of a gas station if you're on the run. Beef jerky, almonds, or like little nuts and seed packets. A lot of stores are carrying the Fairlife protein shakes.
Yeah.
Like you're getting all these different healthy options that can fit around your goals. Yeah. You don't have to grab the chips. You don't have to grab the cookies. You don't have to grab the fake green tea that is like 200 calories with 30 grams of sugar.
Or the hot dog that's been rolling around on the thing for 5 hours.
Right. That cannot be
sometimes
good.
It smells really good. I'm not going to lie.
I worked for somebody.
Fried shit smells good, but it's like, also I'm like, God, that sounds like I will need to stop again in about 10 minutes. Like,
yeah. One of my old bosses before I went into this full time, he was the marketing director at the school that I worked at. Love him to death. One of the best human beings on planet Earth. But he would drive on his lunch break to the local 7-Eleven and buy those like rotating hot dogs for $1. Those suckers have been sitting there for 3, 4, 5. I'm like, dude, that cannot be good. And he's like, they're so filling. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, and you wonder why you feel like crap all day long.
Yeah. Well, and like if we're talking about like costs and stuff, seriously, you can eat healthy and nutrient full and still be able to be on a budget. Like that's the great thing. And I'm not saying like buy all organic. I'm just saying like buy some fruits and vegetables and, or I'm a big fan in this now, kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, because I do believe it can be done. on a budget, of course. You do not have to, like, personally, I do not think like that you have to buy all organic, whatever, to eat healthy and to feel good with the food that you're fixing. If that is something that you want to do, fucking go for it. Like, by all means, this is the beautiful thing about living here is we have lots of choice, right? As human
Yeah.
beings and I guess Americans. But um on the opposite side of that, I am a big fan of the steamer bag veggies.
Yes.
And I used to, because like I would still meal prep, but I'm not trying to spend like tons of time chopping up every single vegetable. I've even grabbed like pre-cut veggies. I had a client tell me that she felt like she was cheating because she grabbed like bagged salad. And I'm like, who the fuck wants to tear up lettuce? Like sometimes
Right.
you just don't have the time. Now, like if you're growing it yourself or if that's a better deal for you or you prefer that, like by all means. And, I'll get into a little routine sometimes where maybe I don't use it all and it goes bad. And then I tell myself, all right, well, you don't get that next week, or you have to eat it within like 2 days, because don't waste your money, obviously. But I'm a big fan of like steamer veggies, and I like to go to Target because also they have a drive up pickup here at our Target. So I don't even have to go in, waste time, waste more money, look around, like get caught up in all of that. I don't have to be, especially as we're recording this is holiday season. I do not want to go in. So I can just pull up, get my like 2 bags of veggies, throw them in my freezer, and I'm good for a while. And I love that. I love their veggies for some reason, but I'm all about like a little bit of like fresh whole, home cooked, whatever, with some of that convenience, but it's still in quotes, it's still whole foods. It just
Right.
happens to be frozen.
Right.
So, and like really easy to throw together meals. Like it doesn't have to be complicated. Hello tacos, hello
Mhm.
hamburgers, like chicken bowls, like
Yeah.
anything that generally like whatever it is that you're trying to grab out of convenience, like you can literally make it home. Honestly, very easily, like throw
Yeah.
some chicken in the stove for,
Yeah.
set a timer so you
Like
don't forget about it.
I had a client that was a mom of four, and her husband worked all the time. She was the stay-at-home mom, and she would be running errands all day, taking all four kids to different schools and whatever. And I had a consultation call with her, and she made the big mistake on giving me an excuse. And she was like, I haven't been, one of her homework assignments was, I told her, I was like, you have to get 3 proper meals. Stop skipping breakfast. You're good with lunch and dinner, but get breakfast in. So, 1 week later, we do the consultation call, and she's like, I haven't been eating breakfast. Okay, why? Well, I am so limited on time. I'm sleeping in. I have to run and take the kids to 4 different schools, whatever. And it's just easier for us to all ride through the McDonald's breakfast line. And I said, okay, freeze, pause right there. Because I'm going to break this argument down in about 5 seconds. You already admitted to me that you hit the snooze button and you're waking up late. That's your fault. Stop hitting snooze, get your ass up. Like, point period. You're a mom of four, dude. Like, get up. And so that's mistake number one. Number two, if you do hit the snooze and you're running late and you have to get the kids to school, what is faster? Sitting in the McDonald's drive-through window for 15 minutes, ordering 4 kids, 4 separate meals, plus yourself, and spending the money, which was probably whatever, $20, family 4, whatever. What's worse? Taking the time, driving to the window. You tell me what takes up more time, Abby. Driving up to the McDonald's window, asking all 4 kids what they want,
Oh
you
my
figuring
Lord.
out what you want, ordering it eventually when it's your turn in the line.
Navigating who's supposed to go in front of you because you're probably in a 2-lane.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yep. Trying to find your
McDonald's.
purse, try to find the money. Like, charge your card, pull up to the drive-through window, charge your card, get the card back, go to the second window, get all the food, check the bags, make sure you got all the food, hand them out to all the kids, drive to the school. Boo-boo, you're already in the McDonald's drive-through window, wasting money, wasting time. When what's faster, you doing that or you simply getting up and making a breakfast smoothie?
Yeah,
like, literally, you can
right.
grab a shaker cup, put water or milk in it, put a scoop of protein powder in it, put some granola or whatever other junk that you
All
like in it,
kinds of
shake it up,
good
boom,
shit.
go.
Oh my God, you can fill a smoothie with so much superfood. Like,
Like,
well, quote superfoods. Like, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
like it, and
Underestimated.
immediately,
But
Immediately.
like, what if
She was just like, "Oh, you're right." And I'm like, "I know I'm right."
also, like, little egg muffins that you can like make ahead, super easy. Or maybe you do have time one weekend to roll up some little breakfast burritos and you just reheat them, put them in the freezer. Like, I love that type of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many examples like overnight oats or whatever, but a smoothie is one of the best. And people, oh, well, I don't like want to have a smoothie and it's cold. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, but it's one of the most fast, like efficient ways to get a shit ton of nutrition in
Yep.
and not feel like ass after. I mean, I listen, I cannot do McDonald's anymore and I don't ever encourage it. So I'm like,
No.
it makes me cringe, but whatever. It's because I'm
Well,
just
the
like that.
biggest,
I know what
like,
that's going to do to my guts, man. Like,
yeah.
it's not going to make me
Think of
feel
it.
good. It's not going to make me feel energetic. I'm going to feel like, and then you've still like been running so hard. You're still like stressed out and on a high. Like, it's literally, none of that's doing anyone any good.
Yeah.
But
And everybody's wondering why they're lethargic. They have low energy, low sex drive. They're
started off the
poor
day with
because
that
they're
shit.
giving their money to McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's cheaper for me to buy a protein shake or go invest in some a protein powder, get some milk, throw some oats in it, than it is to constantly go to McDonald's every single freaking day.
Mm-hmm. I
Like,
agree.
the biggest thing where people get it buried into their brain is convenience. And it's like, fine, I'll meet you where you're at. Okay, fine. You want convenience? I'll show you healthy convenience food. You just mentioned it. The steamable veggie packs. You have microwavable rice packets that you can buy from a grocery store. You
Yeah, I
have
love those.
rotisserie chickens.
Uncle Ben's, y'all.
Uncle Ben's.
Not sponsored.
No, you have
You
the
know,
rotisserie chickens.
yeah.
Like, there's
Oh,
so many
absolutely.
options.
Totally. And once in a while, like when I actually do go into a grocery store, I wander around to see what's new in the like pre-cooked like slash convenience foods in the grocery stores. And even Target, so we have Target, Walmart, we have some like, like Price Cutters or whatever here. Every area is going to have like their kind of regional stuff. And that's what we have here. And there's no Whole Foods. We do have like a really great natural health market, but in terms of like just the general grocery stores, like even Target has pre-shredded chicken, and it's not maybe something that you would want to do all the time. It's not super cost efficient, but it's super helpful in a pinch. Like if you're just on the way home and you're like, I could go through a drive-through or I could pop in, or if you're thinking ahead at work, you can usually have it ready to either pick up or drive up within a couple of hours at our Target anyway. Sometimes I do that like somewhere halfway through my day. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do that, get that on the way home, and then I'll have some things. Makes it super convenient. I would say thank you. Well, I don't say thank you, but like the pandemic did bring about more of the drive up stuff, and especially in our area. Man, that Target pickup is like my freaking, I love it. I mean, I do Walmart sometimes too. And I know pretty much all the other grocery stores have either done that already or now do it even more because of that. And man, that just is so amazing. I know that's not necessarily possible for every person, but it sure does save a lot of time running around a grocery store when they can just bring it all out to you.
Yeah.
So, how are some ways that you work in? We're talking about like boundaries and being busy, and you have a lot going on. How are some ways that you make sure that you get your family time in?
Well, going back into time blocking, that's a
Mm-hmm.
big one. If you do not schedule it, it's not happening. So, one is time blocking. Two, you really have to sit down with yourself and ask yourself what's your core values. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not just for yourself, but for your marriage, for your life, everything like that. We have different core values for different areas in our life. So, like, what I'll do is I'll sit down with myself and I'll say, what's my personal core values? It's God, family, everything else. Those two get my primary, most of my attention. God, family, everything
Mm-hmm.
else secondary. So living by that core value system, I make sure in my calendar when I'm time blocking, first thing in the morning when I wake up, I go to my gratitude journal. I've done a practice where I'll do physical prayer, I'll read the Bible, or if I don't physically pray, one thing I've gotten into that I really like is actually writing letters to God. instead of like physically praying. And I found that very therapeutic, where there's just certain things I can't say up here for whatever reason, but I can write it. And I can
Sometimes
get really
like more
in-depth.
comes out as like you're writing.
Yeah,
Like,
more emotions, like really in-depth stuff that I'm battling with in life. Like I can write it on that paper, and that's my spiritual time with God. And I'll do that for whatever time I realistically got. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes. And then when my wife gets up, we get our daughter ready for school. We sit at the table together, we have breakfast, boom, we're out the door, we separate, we part ways until tonight. And then we have it structured where me and my wife came together. She has her calendar, I have my calendar, and you share that with your spouse. So everybody's on the same page. And I say, what do you have to get done this week? This is what I have to get done. And then we find common ground where, okay, we can fit in date night this day, this time. This is, some areas that we really want to work on. Like, for example, we wanted to do a Bible study together, like a couples Bible study, so we can grow in faith together. And we plug it in Wednesday evenings, 7:00. We're sitting down with our spiritual couples book, and we read over scripture, we talk about it, things like that. And then we have our physical date night on Fridays at 7:00, where that's when we have our quote unquote cheat meal, and we go have pizza, we have a couple beers, things like that, and unwind for the week. But the biggest thing for everybody to take away from this is you have to structure it. Remember, either your days run you or you run your days. If you're just flying by every single day and it's like, oh, I think I have time for this, yeah, let's try to do this, I guarantee you that in this, once again, because I'm very blunt, the quality of your marriage is going to suffer, because your spouse will always feel like a back burner. Your children will always feel like a back burner because you have to fit them in. No, ask yourself, what's your core values? And I understand, as a business owner, listen, guys, I have 2 businesses. I have people that independent contractors that are depending on me to send them a paycheck. I don't take that lightly, but everybody knows my core values. When it's family time, my phone's off. I'm not playing on TikTok. I'm not responding back to Facebook notifications. Like, when it's time for you to give your attention to your husband, give your attention to your husband. When it's time to give your attention to your kids, give them to your kids. Stop having the cell phone on the table while you guys are eating. Stop, take it away, put it on silence, put it in your pocket so you're not tempted by it. Because all that, like growing up once again in the military family, that's incredibly disrespectful. Because I feel like if we were in a meeting together and your cell phone's on the table and you're constantly looking down every time you see that blue light come up, that means I don't have your full attention. And in the military, they teach you that's incredibly disrespectful. Don't you ever do that. If you are talking to somebody, if you're giving them your attention, freaking give them your attention, look them in the eye, things like that. So all those little things can really help improve the quality of your life, your parenting, your marriage, everything like that.
Yeah. And I think, one thing to just note, people, is that it might seem silly. Like, I schedule my lunch into my calendar and I'm like, that might seem silly, but it's not, because if I don't have it in there, sometimes I just don't remember to stop and take that break. And it might seem silly that, you're talking about scheduling a date night, but how else does it work sometimes, like we schedule a lot of other things in there. So why not put something else in our schedule that also helps our relationships or helps us take care of ourselves? And also, I just want to point out, it sounds like there's a lot of good communication going on here in this relationship. So that's another thing that we can work on, like all of us, communication, and just, that way we're on the same page and there's not a bunch of guessing. It's really important.
And, my wife and I literally just sat down last weekend. We're not even at that point when we sat down, it wasn't even the first week of December yet. And we sat down and we're like, all right, let's get together. Let's get a notepad. What's everybody's goals? What do we need to work on? Like, and once again, that comes up with the humility too, and wanting to improve your character, because my wife and myself, my wife has gotten really good at it, and she's teaching me about it, where she'll come to me and she's like, what am I doing that is angering you, frustrating you? Like, where can I just help improve the quality of the marriage more? Or like, where are my shortcomings? Like, she openly, humility, just, hey, where can I be a better wife at? And she stops talking, and I have to sit there and I'm like, here, this is something that you did this past week that really frustrated me. Cool, got it. Now I know to work on it next week. Like, so how many times are you honestly sitting down there with your spouse or even your kids and just showing that humility and teaching them, once again, being a role model, leading by example,
like, how can I help you?
Hey, where can I help you? What am I doing that's frustrating you? Where can I improve? Like, our world has to get better at this.
Yeah,
because,
it's called
you see divorce rates the way that they are.
Yeah,
they're
sorry, we have to set our egos aside a little bit. That's hard sometimes. Because we don't want to think that we're doing anything wrong. And it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's like, just how can you be better in your relationship? How can you help that move along? So what are actually, since you're a movie person, but first I want to know, like, do you have any favorite books or podcasts that you've been reading or listening to lately?
Yeah, so I always encourage everybody to get a subscription to Audible, not sponsored, but I'm a huge fan.
I know, it's great.
But I just downloaded the Will Smith autobiography. It's just called Will.
Yeah. And you like it?
I love it.
I bet it's
Will Smith has always been someone, like, for his personal life, there's some elements of some values I don't agree with, but for his work ethic and just his mindset and how disciplined he stays with his work and managing family time with business, all his personal hobbies, like, I can greatly respect that man. So I've been listening to him for years, and he has a quote inside, or not a quote, and I'll have to paraphrase it, but he gives a story inside of his book, Will, that's called, he shares a story of his relationship with his father, where so many, and people can relate this back to weight loss, because when we figure we have 20, 30, 40 pounds to lose, we're looking at this Mount Everest, and we're looking at this going, oh my gosh, look at everything I have to do to try to get this weight off. Well, Will explains it in his book. This goes back to the story of when he had to build a brick wall for his father because they were doing some renovations in his business or something like that. And him and his brother that had to put up this brick wall. And at the time they were like 9, 10, and they were looking at this humongous brick wall and they're going, oh my God, look at all the work we have to do. We'll never build our own wall. Like, you look at a wall and you're like, how do you build that? Like, that's incredibly intimidating, especially if you've never been in the world of construction. So during this entire summer, Will and his brother are bitching and complaining. Oh, we're never going to be able to build this wall, never be able to build this wall. And they're just laying bricks one after the other. And eventually their father got so fed up with them bitching and complaining about it, he comes out from his office, kicks over the brick wall of what they have established yet, and he goes, stop talking about building the fucking brick wall. Just worry. He picks up a brick and he says, worry about laying this one brick as perfectly as you can. And eventually enough bricks are going to add up into a wall. He drops the brick, walks back into the office. And that one event had completely changed Will Smith's life. And so now when he looks at huge projects or huge goals that he has, he just focuses, what's the next brick that I have to lay today to accomplish that goal? Instead of focusing on Mount Everest, instead of focusing on building a huge brick wall and everything that is involved with building that wall, what is the one brick or what's the one step forward that you can do to put yourself in a better position? So that is, I highly recommend everybody download his book. It's absolutely amazing. And then for podcasts.
Does he read it on Audible? Is it read by him?
Yeah, he reads it himself.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
So then on the podcast, I've never been a huge Joe Rogan fan, like, even though he's the #1 podcast in the nation.
Yeah, same.
I've never gotten into it, but he had, I'm a huge fan of Kevin Hart.
Okay.
And obviously he's incredibly funny, but once again, same thing as Will Smith. I admire his work ethic, how he balances his personal life with managing multiple businesses. So he was a guest twice on the Joe Rogan show, and I went back and watched them. They're a couple of years old now, but I listened to those two. incredibly inspiring. So if anybody's seeking motivation or inspiration, look at the 2 Kevin Hart appearances they had on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Cool.
Like, I've been listening to those on repeat. I've listened to them several
Nice.
times now where I can repeat it back. But if I'm really just down, depressed, not motivated to work, I'll listen to that Kevin Hart podcast and it kicks me in the ass to start going.
Sweet. Well, I don't know if I've not been a fan, but I just have never listened to him. I'm like, oh, everyone does. I'm not going to, but as I got more into podcasting myself, it's, obviously somebody to look up to in the industry and his style, and was actually watching some YouTube videos on his like interview style, which is, that's interesting to watch, just kind of behind the scenes type of stuff. But the one episode that I've made it through, it took me like, cause I think I was just driving back and forth to work and probably only listening to it maybe then, I'm not really sure, was a Quentin Tarantino episode that he did. It took me like 3 days to get through it because it was so long. I was
They
like,
are
oh my
long
gosh, his
podcasts.
podcasts are so long. I mean, I love that. He just has like a big, long conversation with people. It's super cool and gets to talk to all kinds of people. And he keeps it interesting, and he seems genuinely fascinated by everyone. But that actually segues well into my next question now is, so who are like your favorite directors, since you like movies and stuff, who are some of your favorite directors for movies?
Ooh, now you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
Ooh, directors. Obviously you have to go with like the fundamental like gods of movie making. You have to go with like Steven Spielberg, like things like that. Like if I see his name on the title, I'm going to be compelled to see it.
Yeah.
Lately, like you have to give respect, even though this is like a modern director, you have to give respect to the Russo brothers that did the Avengers Endgame series.
Oh, okay.
Like just taking all those
Not
characters,
familiar myself, but that's because I haven't seen those. But
yeah, if you are the director that can handle dozens of characters and dozens of storylines and intertwine them so perfectly that it just adds so much credibility to that film, then you got my respect. So off the top of my head, modern times, I would say Russo brothers. In the past, like Steven Spielberg is a big one. Then there was, I'm drawing a blank on his name. You can Google it. The director and the writer of Baby Driver.
Okay.
That's going to bother me now.
Google it. Go ahead.
But he deserves all the respect in the world. Let me see here.
I like a good Scorsese film myself, and I like a Tarantino film. They're super fun, violent, but they're fun. I like that though.
Edgar Wright.
Okay, cool.
Edgar Wright he's if you ever watch Baby Driver or any of his past films, he has a art for symbolism where throughout the movie, if you're paying attention to the scenery, he actually gives clues to where the script is going.
Cool.
So they did an in-depth like video series on how Edgar Wright wrote out and visualized Baby Driver, where from the start of the film on Baby Driver, if you look at the city and the landscaping and different pieces of graffiti on the wall, it actually teases the ending to the film.
Okay, cool. And I love that type of stuff.
It's bloody brilliant, and it causes you to want to watch the film 2 or 3 times to try to catch everything.
Yeah, I actually love doing like going on IMDb when I watch a movie. I did that a lot when I was shut down from the pandemic. So what's like your rough top 5 of movies? I kind of hate those questions because I feel like it could change for me based on how I'm feeling in the moment. But there are definitely some movies that I can watch like over and over and over and over again, and I'm never tired of them.
Yeah, like for me, like not even talking about, because you have to understand like the way that I see it anyways with the movie industry, like if you rank a top 5, there's either like your favorites, like that can include some guilty pleasures in there that they're not good films, but they just satisfy you.
Sure.
And then you have like the art pieces
that
are like perfect.
Yeah. I'd rather hear the art pieces. I like a well done film.
Yeah, so like for the art pieces, you have to put Baby Driver in there because it's just such a phenomenal film. For like personal favorites, you have Man on Fire with Denzel Washington,
Okay,
where
yeah.
the soundtrack, obviously Denzel being Denzel,
Right.
the aspect of him
So
saving
much
this little
confidence.
girl, it's just a phenomenal film. So if you've never seen Man on Fire, go see Man on Fire.
Yeah. I think
Um,
I haven't seen it for a while. I haven't watched it for a while. I don't think I've ever seen Baby Driver. So I'll have to get on that. I want to thank you for your time today and your advice and your insight to, navigating health and fitness as a parent and like just not making it so overwhelming. So thank you for your time and sharing all of those insights. Super appreciate you coming on the podcast and just like delivering the gold.
no problem. Thank you for having me.
Great conversation with Taylor. I love his passion for coaching and helping and impacting others. You can connect with him on Facebook by just looking him up at Taylor Rodriguez. You can find him on Instagram at Coach Taz, or you can find him on his website, all linked in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to Crushing with Abio. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review. As always, you can connect with me on Instagram at Coach Abio or drop me an email at hello@crushingpodcast.com.